Question 9. We have a right angle triangle, two sides given, 3.4 and 5.8. We're being asked to work out the size of angle QRP. So Q to R to P is this angle highlighted here, which I'm just going to call X. Two sides and an angle involved in a right angle triangle, where one of them we're trying to find out. That's going to be your trigonometric ratios, your SOHCAHTOA. So let's label the sides of our triangle here just to figure out whether or not we're using sine, cos, or tan. The fact that the right angle is here means that across from it will be the hypotenuse. The opposite angle, the opposite side is the one opposite the angle, so that's this here. And truth be told, I don't even need to label the other one because we don't care about it. Hypotenuse and opposite are both mentioned. This one, of course, is the adjacent, but we don't want that, so we're going to be using sine. Sine is the trig ratio that involves opposite and hypotenuse. Quote that and plug everything in the right place. Our angle is the unknown, so we leave x as x, but it wouldn't matter what letter you chose. 3.4 is the opposite. 5.8 is the hypotenuse. Now, in order to get x by itself, to figure it out, we have to inverse sine both sides. So inverse sine of the left-hand side is what's going to make that disappear, basically. And then inverse sine of what's on the right-hand side is what you're going to type in your calculator. So inverse sine 3.4 over 5.8 will give us 35.888, so on. Question wants us to leave it to one decimal place, so that means rounding there, we end up with 35.9 degrees. Part B. The length 5.8 is correct to two significant figures. Write down the upper bound for length of PR and write down the lower bound for the length of PR. So 5.8, correct to two significant figures. This is what I recommend that kind of helps you with the trickier bounds questions. A lot of you will look at this and maybe know straight away what the answer is. If you're watching this video, then you probably want something that will help you with all types of questions, and you get ones that are much more difficult than this. So hear me out here. 5.8 is the number that you've been given. It has been rounded, which means that there were some numbers that are bigger than it and less than it that round to 5.8. And that's always the case with these upper and lower bounds questions. So here's the deal. The rounding that they say, 2 sig fig, what I want you to do is think of, well, if 5.8 is the number we're given, what would have been the next number? What's the next two significant figure number? Or in other words, if you think of that as a whole number, what's the next number after it? So 58, the next number after that would be 59. But of course, this is 5.8, so in this instance, we have 5.9. So if you do that to figure out what the next number is, do the same going back the way. You'll have 5.7. And your upper and lower bounds are always going to be halfway between your number and the next number. Even though technically the middle here would round up, just below it, you're going to end up with, and we'll just do this one now, it'd be 5.849999999. You just assume it rounds to 5.85, so that's going to be our upper bound, 5.85. Whereas below, we end up with 5.75. So whenever it comes to significant figures, and like I said, there's more tricky ones in this, think about your number. What would the next number be? What would the previous number be? You can even draw them out in a little number line like that. Upper bound is halfway in between your number and the next one. The lower bound is halfway between your number and the previous number. Done.